So let's talk about what is Azure Tenant and what is Azure subscription. Okay. So for example, let's imagine you have a company ABC. So you wanted to deploy your workload in Azure. Okay. So now you go to the Microsoft and you say that I want to deploy my workload in Azure. So Microsoft, what will they do? They will give you a tenant for you. Okay. Tenant is nothing but a representation of your company. For example, your company name is ABC. So they will give you this ABC tenant for you. Okay. Tenant is nothing but a space in their cloud. Okay. So every company will have its own tenant. So that is how it works. So when you buy a tenant, sorry, when Microsoft gives you a tenant, inside that tenant, there will be something called subscription. Subscription is the place where you're actually going to deploy your virtual machines or resources. So there are different types of subscription. So I'll go with one by one. One is Azure subscription, and then we have a O365 subscription, and then we have our Dynamics or Power BI, something like that. So Azure subscription where you can build your VMs, storage, etc. And in Office 365, you will have your Outlook, you'll have your Teams, you'll have your OneDrive, you'll have your Intune, etc., etc. And in Dynamics, it will have a CRM services, etc. Okay. So based on that, you can choose which subscription you want, and you can deploy your VMs or you can deploy your other things. But every tenant comes with a directory service. Okay. So directory service is nothing but it will provide you identity and access management to verify your users whether they are authorized to access the resources or not. Okay. So this is given by Azure Active Directory, by the way. Okay. So here you are going to create the users groups and other things so that you can allow access to the tenant. Okay. So in order to understand this, let me give you an example. So consider a apartment complex. Okay. So this is an apartment complex. So in this apartment complex, you will have multiple houses or flats, you can say. So if you wanted to buy a house, you will contact this the owner of this apartment complex, and you will say that I need a house. So based on his availability, so they will give you a house for you. So for example, let's say this house. Okay, for example, house number 101, for example. So they will register that under your name. So now this house will be under your name. This is considered as a tenant. Okay. So here apartment complex, you need to consider it as a Microsoft data center. So inside data center, they will have a number of tenants. So whenever you go there and you ask Microsoft that I need to deploy workloads, they will give a tenant for you. So once you have a tenant, this tenant will be registered under your company name. So similarly, how the when you register your home under your name, right? Similarly goes here. So inside this home, you may have a living room, you may have a bedroom, you may have your bathroom or whatever, prayer room, etc., etc. Right? Similarly, consider, for example, living room is your Azure subscription, and your bedroom is maybe your O365 subscription, or other things maybe another subscription like CRM or Dynamics, etc., etc. But one thing you have to keep it in your mind: in your house, you have something called gate or the door, right? So why we have door? Door to protect, entering any other unauthorized person inside your home. To protect that, you will have a door. Similarly, in Microsoft, as I told you, give an example that every tenant comes with a directory service, which will help as a door or entry point. So where it will, check for the identity. If the identity is valid, then it will allow. Similarly, in your house, if the person is authorized, then you can enter. Otherwise, you can block that itself. That is the beauty of directory services when I compare that with this one. So now once you have your home, you have your rooms, etc., right? Inside your room, I told you consider this as a Azure subscription. So inside your room, you may have things, right? You may have your wardrobe, you may have your cot, bed, etc. So consider that as a Azure resources. For example, this is your subscription. Just imagine this subscription is nothing but your room, bedroom. So inside bedroom, you may have your wardrobe, you may have your cot, you may have your any other things. Similarly, in Azure, consider inside this subscription, you have your resource like VMs, you have a resource like storage, you have a resource like network, etc. So this is in brief to give you an idea what is tenant. Don't get confused with the tenant. and what is subscription and what is directory services. Okay, I hope you guys are clear with this. So this is very important to understand. Without understanding this, then it's very difficult, because many people will consider tenant and subscription are the same, but it is not same. Okay, so tenant, it is a single entity, whereas subscription, you have a n number of subscription on your infrastructure. Okay, so this is a brief about tenant, subscription, and directory services. So if I go to my diagram over here, so as you can see, you have Azure tenant. Under that, you have multiple subscription one or subscription two. Then you have a resources. Okay, so this is a brief about what is subscription. So now there is one more concept called management group. Okay, so if you go to this, here you will see something called management group, right? So you need to understand what is management group. This is also very important. So in order to give an idea what is management group, for example, let's imagine a subscription. You have bought a subscription to deploy your VDIs, which is for Azure Virtual Desktop. Okay, this is a subscription one. So on which subscription you will deploy your Azure Virtual Desktop. Okay, similarly, for example, new project came, and the new project requirement is to deploy your Citrix VDIs on Azure. Okay, so what you did, you went and you created one more subscription, which is subscription 2, and here you're going to deploy your Citrix VDIs. Okay, so things in the future, you may have a one more subscription where you wanted to deploy your VMware hosted workloads. For example, VMware Horizon on Citrix Cloud, sorry, on Microsoft Cloud. So you will create one more subscription. Here we will implement VMware related things. Maybe after some time you have a requirement to deploy some other workload, which is, let's say, non-prod workloads. Okay, so test and development, you want to deploy your UAT or SAT non-prod applications, you will go with the different subscription number 4. So now, in order to implement controls, so it's very difficult to manage if your company grows and you wanted to manage, this is in centrally. Okay, for example, manage in terms of, for example, I'll just give an example. You have a bank and you have a requirement that you should not deploy your workloads outside the country. For example, this is UAE. We have a Azure cloud in UAE. So I want all my VMs to be deployed in UAE only. I don't want to deploy anything outside UAE. So in order to apply this control, so first thing what you have to do, just imagine you have managing the subscription individually. So you need to create a policy and you need to define here, 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 as well as here. The same policy you need to deploy all the 4 places, or if you have 100 subscription, you have to manually go and deploy in 100 subscription, saying that you should not deploy any VMs outside UAE. Okay, so there is a policy, Azure policy by default, that will help you to restrict and to achieve this. So now the things get complicated, right, as your subscription goes increasing. So in order to manage subscription, and also one more thing, let me tell you something. So you go and apply it here as well. Okay, so now the thing is, for example, this AVD is managed by separate AVD team. This is Citrix managed by separate Citrix team. This is managed by separate VMware team, and this is managed by separate non-prod team. So if you are applying a policy here, so the admin who is managing this particular subscription, they have a control also to bypass the policy, right? They can go and modify. Okay, so the Citrix admin can modify the policy here and he can deploy outside the country, or also your UAT, he can deploy the things, modify the policy, because he's the contributor and he's the owner of that subscription. So you do not have any controls on an organization level. So there comes management group. So management group, it is a logical entity so that you can add multiple subscription under this management group. Got my point? So here, once you create a management group, right, you can add all your subscription under that management group. So you can apply the policy here. Like, let's say, don't deploy any VMs outside UAE, apply the policy over here, so that it will get applied to irrespective of hundreds of subscription you have inside this management group. So you no need to go and single by single, to go and deploy your policies. You can deploy in a single place, and it will inherit everywhere. Even if somebody is trying to change it here, it won't apply. Why? Because it will take the precedence from the management group. So this is the beauty of management group, where you can control your subscriptions. Okay. So by default, when you create any new subscription, so it comes with the root subscription, root management group. So under this root management group, you can create a number of management group. For example, you may have a management group for your production, and you have a management group for your non-prod. So under production, you put all your production subscription. Under non-prod, you can put all your non-prod subscription, and accordingly you can define the policy. For example, let's say some policy only applicable to management group of production, and some only applicable to non-prod, and some policy which is common to everyone. So you can put it at the top level. So you can create multiple management group. So in this way. So in order to brief you this, if you go to my diagram over here, as you can see, so this is the resource hierarchy. So top we will have a management group, and then we have a subscription, and then we'll have a resource group. Inside that resource group, we'll have a resource. So if you wanted to apply a policy, you can apply it on the management group level. Also, you can apply it on the subscription level. Also, you can apply it on the resource group level. And also it is possible to apply on the resource group level as well. Okay. So this is the hierarchy of Azure resources. So on the base level, we have resources such as your VMs, SQL, network, storage, etc. And then it comes under the resource group. So resource group comes under your subscription. So subscription comes under your management group. I hope this is clear for you, and this is very important to understand this concept. Okay.